Welcome to TSIB Talks, where we share information on construction insurance and its possible effect on your business. Enjoy our latest episode.
Hi, I'm Tina Jacquez. I am an account executive and I've been in the insurance industry 24 years, specifically to commercial, probably half of that, 12 at least.
And I'm Lindsey. I have been in the insurance industry for about 26 years and I think probably 17 of that in small business and then into commercial insurance.
Yeah, so thank you to both of you for being here, and let's dive right into things. So pretty much what's going on in California with auto? What is happening? Why are carriers pulling out? Is this affecting people commercial-wise, or is it like in a small business, or is it just personal? What's happening overall?
It's everywhere. It's personal, commercial, small business.
It is across the board for California. Our rates have skyrocketed. Carriers are pulling out because California obviously is a highly litigated state. So the companies are taking losses and it's just not worth their premium that they can charge. People couldn't afford it, so they're pulling out. And it is affecting everybody across the board, from commercial to personal auto.
And what exactly is a litigation state?
Litigation state means it is California.
They can sue.
Yeah, or anything. I mean, it could be a very simple minor rear end. Obviously, your carrier, if you're insured appropriately, is going to take care of that. But in California, they can still go after you personally
For bodily injury.
For bodily injury. And it's just gotten to be crazy. So, like I said, a simple rear end accident can be turned into, thousands of dollar claim, and the companies end up being upside down. So they just figure it's just not worth it in California. So companies are pulling out and leaving a lot of clients without the coverage, just giving them notice that we're not going to renew you. We're pulling out of the state, and we are extremely limited on the companies that have remain,
So what exactly is the solution here then? If these carriers are pulling out, how can you even get someone auto insurance?
There's a few select what we call non-standard markets that will take pretty much anybody, bad drivers, people with tickets, accidents. They'll take our commercial accounts, but they charge for it. So there is viable options out there. It's just very pricey.
Right. So if you were used to have paying, 15 to 2,000 a power unit, meaning a vehicle, that can easily double on your renewal. So when clients are getting sticker shock when they're seeing what options we have available, what the rate is per vehicle. And it's not just commercial, it's personal too. I mean, on your personal auto, if you paid $800 or $900 for the year, it's probably doubled, if not tripled.
Right. So we tell people that know that we do insurance, like, oh, can you quote my personal auto? And it's like, no, you need to just stay where you're at because that's the best place for you, and just pay your premiums.
Yeah, right now is not the time to be shopping your insurance because you're not going to see a savings. If your company is staying in California, your best bet is to stay with them. Specifically auto. Like Julie said, with our non-admitted, sometimes we have to jump through a few more hoops to get them to write the risk. I handle a specialty book of security guards. So that's already a difficult one in itself because carriers do not want to insure a vehicle if their driver is carrying a weapon. Some of our security guards are armed, which if a loss occurs, it's not going to be
the auto.
Right. It's going to be your liability. But because the person is carrying a weapon, they're fearful that that's, could cause or could interfere with a claim.
Like Tina said, because the liability would come on the GL, or if they were involved in an accident, they were driving during the course of employment. So that could technically be a workers' comp claim anyway.
Right.
But yeah, California, I wish was a no-fault state.
And so this is all happening because people are suing, or are there more drivers out there? Essentially what I'm asking, I guess, is what is the solution? I know California is a highly populated state. So does that mean that there are more vehicles out there?
So there are more vehicles out there with the litigation, but the cost of repairs have also increased for the vehicles, the labor to repair the vehicles. So that's all increased. So it is multiple things. unfortunately, it's just hit all at once for California and left us, really scavenging to try to find carriers that are willing to write the risks.
If it's not part of a package, like some of the larger contractors that can't fit with Liberty or Travelers, we have to go pretty much to a non-admitted market, which, like Tina said, it's a little harder to place, but they will write it and you do pay a pretty penny for it. It's a horrible situation, and I don't know when it's going to end. Hopefully, I keep seeing stuff from the insurance commissioner, but we haven't had anything come through like they're forcing the carriers to come back, because they can't.
Right.
They could entice them maybe certain ways, but I don't know the details on that. But a lot of them just don't want to. Even State Farm, Farmers, the non-direct direct writers, they're even canceling personal insurance as well. So it's not just the big players like Travelers, Liberty, Nationwide. It's even the direct writers like Farmers, State Farm, Foremost.
Those are all pulling out too. And State Farm, Farmers, they've all let their clients know we're pulling out of California. So now we've got those people on top of our regular trying to find coverage. I know the commissioner was trying to implement a company that would kind of, how do you have to write California auto, because it is a requirement in the state of California. So he was trying to implement that, but I don't think
Like
that
assigned risk.
it's an assigned risk. Yeah. Like California, as far as, not to get off subject, but workers' comp, it is a state requirement that California employers carry workers' comp. Well, if we can't find a market for them, state fund they have to write the coverage. It's not going to be the premium you necessarily want, but they have to write the coverage. He was trying to implement that on the auto, and I don't think that we've gotten anywhere.
We haven't gotten that far yet.
And we get updates from time to time with our markets, and companies, what they're doing, specifically this one being a hot topic with the state, the auto, because you have to have it. It's a state requirement. And what are these clients going to do if they can't find the coverage?
So the state requires it, but the carrier is all pulling out because, like you said earlier, they're losing money, they're not making a profit, but they're still required to have it. So they're paying a lot of this money. And especially the small businesses, they're probably not making this money back, right?
A lot of them are parking their parking or non-opping. So if it's a mid-sized fleet with 5 to 10 vans, they might be parking 4 of them just to save on the insurance premium for that. Same with trucks or security guards. They might downsize their little private passengers. Instead of having 10 on the road, they might only have 5 at a time, just to save money where you can.
So does this hurt the small businesses then, or?
It hurts the regular Joe Blow that just bought a new car, or a younger, insured driver or licensed driver. It's pretty much would be impossible for them to afford insurance on their own.
And we've had clients share with us, like, I don't know how I'm going to keep my doors open to my business between the auto market and having to pay, per unit what I'm paying. And then in California, again, the workers' comp, because we're one of the pricier states on the comp. So a lot of the small mom and pops are having a difficult time. We've seen a lot of them even close during COVID because of that. Mm-hmm. Then now we've rolled into this situation of the autos, and it's extremely difficult. I mean, we are having to hit every carrier with a submission, just fingers and toes crossed that somebody will quote us something, that at least we have something to present to the client, whether they take it or not.
At least we did our due diligence and offered them a product.
Right.
It might not be the best solution, but we are pretty limited on what we can offer. We do try to do the best, but it is hard.
It's very difficult. We've been in this situation over a year now, a little over a year. And I don't think I yet to see light at the end of the tunnel yet.
Well, we did get a notice today from one of our major carriers that they were going to offer monoline, which means just straight auto insurance for commercial clients by itself. So that was a plus. We haven't delved into what those requirements are for them. They might want a fleet of a certain amount of units or so forth. But so that was pretty positive today to get that from one of the major players that we use on a daily basis. So
yeah, that was good. But then you do have to, their underwriting criteria.
Yeah.
You've got to fit in that box.
If it doesn't fit in the box, next.
And these clients, they're not doing anything wrong. Like they could be good drivers and they can have no accidents and they could be the best of the best, but they're still being penalized.
Still being penalized. And we are continuously educating the clients as far as their drivers. We run their motor vehicle reports. We want to see, what violations they have. We're educating the clients to make sure they implement a hands-free device, because when the motor vehicle report comes up and you see that they've got a ticket for being on a cell phone, carriers are looking at that as a serious violation.
If they don't have a manual in place for driver guidelines, we will help them with that. Like Tina said, we'll do the motor vehicle record run at renewal and at hire. So if they're screening a client, they'll send it over to us to see if they would be a viable driver if their license is clear. They do telematics. There's navigation tracking.
We can offer defensive driving
defensive
courses for the
driving
drivers.
courses.
Everything to paint that picture that the client is responsible, they're involved within their daily operations, and that they're educating their drivers to be better, safe drivers, so that they're mitigating and reducing their risk.
How do you see this affecting other types of insurance in the industry in California outside of auto?
I feel like since I've been in insurance, there's been ebbs and flows of hard and soft markets, is what they call it. For a while, it was the workers' comp. The rates and the premiums were ridiculous. Now that's come down, now we're seeing the auto. It could be the excess. So getting an underlying excess policy used to be very expensive. Now that's kind of coming back to where that price is creeping up there. So what's happened with the non-admitted auto market is we fled what we call our MGA counterparts. We send them the submission to find a market for us through their use, and they're inundated. So not just with auto, but with other lines. So everything is backlogged with the people that we use to outsource our quote or to get a quote for us.
And with that, you're hoping that the client hasn't reached out to another broker
Or wholesaler.
and that they might be trying to approach the same markets, because we're all limited. So then it's a matter of trying to make sure your submission is complete with everything that the underwriter needs to quote it, and that you've beat that other broker to the market to block it. So then you've got that added into the stresses of trying to get quotes. But like Julie said, we've seen things go high and low. And, in California, we also have had to worry about like the floods, the fires that happen. California, every year we have unfortunate fires that have occurred, and then rain comes through and floods occur. So then that's something else that the Californians have to deal with. It's been...
Yeah, I think a few years ago it was the fires. A lot of our commercial properties, if they deemed them in a fire zone, those were getting non-renewed. So it's always something. I mean, right now it's the auto. It's the hard one, but it's just a combination of many things. Everything is just slower to get quotes back, information back from a lot of our markets, whether they're not admitted or admitted. It's just everybody's being inundated trying to find the cheapest and best product for their clients. It's definitely been challenging, and something that might have taken a week or two to get a quote now maybe takes a month and a half. So nothing is instant. When somebody says, "Oh, I need to be on this job, I'm just coming into business," you got to give me at least a 2-week window to get something back for you, and that's fast if we can do that. I know our producer does his best to relay that. So, we do our best to keep them abreast of everything.
It's difficult for them because they're trying to operate a business. They're trying to follow the state requirements to have all their required insurance in place. And it's...
Well, and a lot of them, like Tina said, a lot of them have to have state filings with California. So if they're transporting anything or have a vehicle weight over a certain gross vehicle weight over an amount, they're required to have a motor carrier permit, or the Department of Transportation, they need a DOT number. It just...
and that's another thing. Some of these carriers
don't want
to issue those filings. So you may get a quote from them, and then when they find out, oh, there's a filing, oh, we're retracting our quote because we don't do filings. So then that's another obstacle that we have to face and have to explain to the client. Why doesn't all these carriers do filings? can't tell the carrier.
Or they might have started off with smaller units and then all of a sudden, boom, now we're transporting commodities that require it or a vehicle weight. So it's, and then we find out, oh no, we don't do that. So then it's a rush. Oh, well, now we got to move your insurance.
Mhm.
It's just a day in our desk.
No, yeah, that definitely makes sense. So would you say there's any more, additional information coming from the commercial side of things, or?
I think for the commercial side is, the more information we have on your operations, that the owners are actively involved with the daily operations as far as what their drivers are doing and holding those drivers, I think, responsible for their motor vehicle reports. That all helps. We don't want to be the bad guy and say, your specific employee has too many violations and stuff. We look at this like we are worried about the insured's best interest as far as what their risk is. So sometimes if we see an MVR that is not favorable, we don't want them driving those commercial vehicles because there is a huge liability out there, especially if you see an individual that's got multiple violations for being on the cell phone. Obviously, their work is not the priority. So
Yeah, so that concludes our episode. Thank you to both of you, Julie and Tina, for joining me today and explaining the insurance auto market a little more and what's happening with everyone's rates and premiums. So yeah, thanks again. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of TSIB Talks. If you like this content, be sure to follow for new episodes. Until next time.